The following is a presentation of the Pro Wrestling Report. Informative, entertaining, and real since 1998.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
To scratch and major itch. So enjoy your fruity pebbles, you yabba dabba bitch.
They've killed him! And CM Punk, and I am the voice of the voiceless.
Be the man. You gotta beat the man. Woo, woo, woo. You know it. I got okie doke by the
Live from the Pro Wrestling Report studios in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This is Monday Night Meltdown with your hosts, Damian Nelson and David Hero.
I'm proud to say we're doing things the Vince McMahon way.
That's the bottom line. What? Cause Stone Cold said so.
Bringing you all the latest news and views from professional wrestling. Monday Night Meltdown is on the air.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Pro Wrestling Report Monday Meltdown for Monday, April 16, 2012. Damian Nelson here along with Matthew Thomas and David Octavius, the Tiberius Hero. We're talking about WWE RAW that just went off the air on the USA Network, and we're also going to be taking your phone calls, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be entering the phone zone in just a little while. The number, 877-317-9772, 877-317-9772. We're also on Twitter, at PWR Show on Twitter, at PWR Show on Twitter, and on Facebook, facebook.com/PWR Show. Facebook.com/PWR Show. Thanks to everyone joining us wherever you are all over the world here on the Pro Wrestling Report Monday Meltdown, as we are just 3 days away from the 2012 Pro Wrestling Report Draft, which will be seen exclusively at PWRshow.com Wednesday night, 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. You can find out all the details of who gets picked and when in the 2012 Draft. But first, let's talk about WWE RAW tonight, a show that really did move forward in the direction towards Extreme Rules, which is only in a couple of weeks on pay-per-view. As a matter of fact, I think 13 days on pay-per-view. And we saw some people in some matchups that I can't say I would have expected to happen so fast, most specifically being the main event matchup between John Cena and his mystery opponent in an Extreme Rules matchup, Lord Tensai. Surprising there, especially given the fact that Lord Tensai wins that matchup on what was a very active Raw tonight. David Hero, your thoughts on that big move for Lord Tensai tonight?
Well, they had to do something with Lord Tensai because what they've been doing lately is, Brodus Clay, 30, 40-second, 50-second matches, not getting a whole lot done. They don't want to just keep having Lord Tensai go up there and beat people up and not really get anything out of it. So, hey, what do? Put Lord Tensai in the ring with the number one babyface in the company. And look what happens. He goes over, legitimizes Lord Tensai. Yes, he did get an assist from Motunga and Johnny Ace. But at the end of the day, well, of course, hey, it was a no DQ match. All that's legal.
That's true.
It was a big win for Lord Tensai to establish him as, okay, he is now an upper card player and a guy that can work with Brock Lesnar to try to destroy John Cena.
Matthew Thomas, some people making the comparison between Lord Tensai and Tajiri with the Green Mist. And it's funny because actually just last night on the post show, David Hero for TNA Lockdown, we were talking about today's wrestling fan versus the wrestling fan of old. And I more liken it to that of the great Muta, who was one of the most tremendous wrestlers in the history of the business, in my opinion. But, Matthew, your opinion tonight on Lord Tensai's elevation into the main event with John Cena just some 3 weeks after he debuted on Raw.
I was as surprised as anybody. Like David said, we've seen the introduction of the Funkasaurus here with bringing him in, the quick squash matches, and I was just kind of assuming that was kind of the direction they were going to go in with Tensai, but 3 weeks in, putting him in the main event match against John Cena and having him go over, even with it being a no DQ match like that, it's quite the statement and a surprise to me.
So much more happened on WWE Raw tonight, including the opening matchup, which was fantastic, a no disqualification matchup for the WWE Championship, CM Punk versus Mark Henry. One thing you can count on when WWE goes over to London for Raw, or over into the UK in general for Raw, is you're going to get a great wrestling matchup. And we got it tonight between CM Punk and Mark Henry, a fantastic match that ultimately saw CM Punk get the win. And then after that, the intervention by Chris Jericho, as he announced that they will take each other on at the pay-per-view Extreme Rules in a Chicago street fight. All that happening, though, before we saw footage of CM Punk entering a pub over in London earlier today. Matthew, your thoughts on the matchup and the shenanigans, if you will, that occurred after the match?
I really enjoyed the match, and going back 2 years ago, I never really thought I would have said that about a Mark Henry match, but I still continue to be impressed with where he's come, and he's not the dominant monster like he was over the course of the summer, but I am glad to see him getting a little bit of his stride back, and overall a very impressive match to kick things off. And as far as it pertains to the shenanigans, I'm never a real big fan of the hidden camera stuff. It always comes off as a little cheesy to me, and this did the same tonight. I still like the angle. I'm still intrigued with the whole angle, but as far as the hidden camera footage, I could have just left that out.
Yeah, so you weren't a fan of GTV?
That had its merits. It had its merits at time, but yeah, this in a serious angle like this, throwing the hidden camera stuff in there, just not my cup of tea.
Octavius, your thoughts?
I just don't like the whole angle to begin with. I don't think that
Really?
they need to bring. Yeah, I don't think they need that to sell this match. I think they should be feuding over who is the best in the world. Not about, whose dad is drunk, whose sister's doing pills, whose mom is doing whoever. I mean, make it about two of the biggest stars in wrestling today. Make it about Jericho versus Punk. I don't need the other nonsense and drama in there for this match to be great.
Did they or did they not, though, determine who the best in the world was at WrestleMania? It seemed as if that was the definitive matchup to determine that CM Punk was, at least on that night, superior to Chris Jericho. So perhaps this gives them a little bit more legs to the story.
Well, and you would think that would have been the end of it right there, but obviously that's not what they're doing. And, it's interesting that it's going to be a Chicago street fight involving CM Punk. Almost makes you wonder, well, James Storm in Nashville, Tennessee, does Jericho leave the champion in Chicago, beating Punk in his hometown in a street fight? Or is this going to be the last we see of Chris Jericho? Because if Punk does beat Chris Jericho in Chicago, what is left for Punk to do? He's going to fall down to the middle of the card at best, and I don't think he came back to be a mid-card guy.
Look, why are you saying everybody's getting out of here? You're talking about John Cena being gone for a couple of months. Now you're saying CM Punk being gone.
No. What I'm saying is Jericho needs to win. He needs to beat Punk because I'm not saying
really won a
Punk
match
should be.
yet.
No, he hasn't won anything yet since he's been back. And if he loses to CM Punk at the next pay-per-view, then what do you do with Chris Jericho? I mean, he's damaged goods.
Yeah.
He's no different right now than Zack Ryder.
Wow.
He's not.
Wow. Dang.
Hey, both guys have tremendous fan followings, but both guys have not done anything significant in the past since the first of the year.
I want to say this, though. We were at Money in the Bank last year, and I think the situation is a little different. However, that crowd will be rabid for CM Punk. And let's not forget last year at Money in the Bank, the uneasiness that both of us felt. If the scenario had developed that CM Punk had lost his matchup with John Cena in Chicago, there could have been a near riotous situation in that arena.
Absolutely, and that could very well happen with Jericho and Punk. I mean, there's no different. I think that this match with Punk and Jericho has far more heat and far more build than Cena versus Punk last summer.
Really?
It's far more personal. Absolutely.
Far more personal, but I'm not sure if there was more heat on Jericho than there was on Cena last year.
The heat wasn't on Cena. It was on Vince last year.
No, come on. It was on Cena. Do you remember that thunderous boo?
Cena was the lightning rod. He was the guy that took all of it. But it was all the heat was on the company. It was on Vince. That's what that was.
Matthew Thomas
I'm telling you, Chicago's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting crowd. And it's almost like there's a huge fork in the road for the WWE as to what direction you go in. Do you go with Cena or do you go with Brock? Do you go with Jericho or do you go with Punk? And then you got to worry about Daniel Bryan Danielson. He is way over. He's almost a top babyface, but he's a heel. And then you got Sheamus, who up until WrestleMania was really hitting his peak and his stride, and now you got him in a match with a guy that the crowd wants to cheer, but the company wants you to hate. You got three matches that is actually pivotal. It's very pivotal for the success of this company going forward for the rest of the year.
Extreme Rules will really be that, I guess, pivotal point in WWE, and that is coming up in just a couple of weeks. We're going to be providing live coverage from the arena, Allstate Arena in Chicago, or actually in Rosemont, Illinois, on that event on April the 29th. But Raw had one more significant moment, I thought, tonight, and that was the interview with Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar explaining that he is not a superstar, but that he is an ass kicker, and explained why he came back, saying it was strictly business. He didn't come back to hear the roar of the crowd. He's sick of John Cena's bullcrap, and said something that has been said before, which is that John Cena would not be in that spot if he, Brock Lesnar, had not left, going as far as to say that John Cena would be carrying his bags if Brock Lesnar had not left. I thought this interview was awesome. I thought it was exactly what they needed to do. It had a gritty feel to it, almost UFC-like. Matthew, your thoughts on Brock Lesnar giving his reasoning for his return to WWE tonight on Raw?
I thought the interview was very well done, and what came across to me more than anything else is the fact that he, more so than anybody right now on that roster that I can pinpoint, is somebody who I genuinely feel like could kick your ass. I mean, as far as anybody not wanting to meet at the dark end of an alley, I mean, that's the guy right there. And I think that interview, that sit-down interview, really, really did a great job conveying that.
David Hero, your thoughts on Brock Lesnar's words tonight?
I think he's dead on. I mean, there's no question that Brock Lesnar does not leave. John Cena is not the face of the company. He might be the top good guy, but I think it would be Brock Lesnar's company. I don't think that, or at least he'd be sharing it with Brock Lesnar. It wouldn't all be John Cena. And you know what? There is quite a bit of realism, I guess. There's that word, or legitimacy that they're trying to use right now about Brock Lesnar. Because he was the star. He was the guy that beat Undertaker in a Hell in a Cell, the guy that beat The Rock, who was beating the legends, who beat Hulk Hogan, you know, who was on his way of beating Kurt Angle. There weren't too many guys left that Brock Lesnar was beating.
You know, if you look at sheer dominance from a two-sport perspective, being wrestling and whatever else, in this case, obviously, mixed martial arts, if you look at pure dominance, and you look at the accomplishments, youngest WWE champion, three-time champion, only 2 years in the company accomplishing all that, going over to the UFC, doing what nobody thought he could, becoming the undisputed champion, coming back to WWE and really creating a buzz in the wrestling business. I don't believe there's anyone in the history of professional wrestling who has the resume that Brock Lesnar does.
As far as being a two-sport guy?
just his sheer dominance. I mean, he dominated WWE. He dominated the UFC. He doesn't have a failure to speak of, aside from the Minnesota Vikings, but he really doesn't have a failure to speak of. And you know, I guess you can't doubt him. You can't doubt him at all.
No, I mean, I guess you could say, you know, you got The Rock, who has dominated Hollywood and has dominated the, you know, wrestling. So that may be the only true comparison.
Yeah, but definitely from a sport and an entertainment standpoint. But if you look back to the likes of a Ken Shamrock, a Dan Severn, even a Dr. Death Steve Williams, I guess, nobody's got the sporting resume that a Brock Lesnar has. Now, perhaps you could talk about a Kurt Angle being obviously an Olympian and a wrestler, and he ranks up there. And you look at some of the other great performers, such as Shelton Benjamin, who's an NCAA wrestling champion as well. But none of those people had the sheer dominance in both sports that Brock Lesnar has exhibited.
Well, I wouldn't say that Brock was dominant in UFC. I mean, he got his butt kicked twice. Not saying that, you know...
It's two outbound fights, though.
Well, right, but what I'm saying is his career wasn't that long in UFC. I think he only had maybe like 5 fights total. And I think he lost 3 of them. So,
he
as
won the ones that matter.
Well, right, but as far as crossover appeal, as far as marketing machine, Brock Lesnar has been very successful.
I still say, and I know you disagree, David, and we haven't gotten Matt's thoughts on this, this match is happening entirely too fast, especially with what we heard tonight, what we saw last week. I don't understand what the end game here is. Maybe I should just wait for it and see what happens, but I feel I could wait several months for this matchup and enjoy the journey getting there, as opposed to it happening 3 weeks or 2 weeks from now in an Extreme Rules matchup, which, as you say, David, gives room to play for whatever the finish may be. But at the same time, there's money in this matchup, and I feel strongly that it's being hot-shotted. Matthew, your thoughts on the fact that John Cena and Brock Lesnar will be rushed into Extreme Rules in the main event?
I see where you're coming from, Damian, and it does feel a little bit funny to me that it's at Extreme Rules and not one of your big pay-per-views. But by having it this soon, it does a couple of things. You know, it rides that steam of coming out of WrestleMania with the big headlining match with The Rock and Cena, right into Lesnar, Cena, you know, that big profile name in the main event, the very next pay-per-view. And at the same time, with it being at Extreme Rules, you do have, like you said, that room to, you know, have Lesnar just pummel Cena with chairs, tables, whatever foreign objects there may be. So you can get Cena out of the picture, like David said last week, for a little while. But at the same time, I think it does protect him a little bit, as opposed to him going out and doing the job in the center of the ring like he did at WrestleMania. So it does have that going for it, in the fact that you can make Lesnar look as mean and bad as you want to, and, you know, have Cena by for a little while. But at the same time, it's not. I don't think you're going to have that concern of it damaging him like you would if he lost clean or semi-clean, you know, after losing to The Rock at WrestleMania.
David, a question for you.
Yeah.
And this has happened before. Brock Lesnar left WWE in a bad spot when he left in 2004. There's got to be bad feelings there. Now Lesnar's back, obviously. Lesnar chose to come back. Is there a chance that he actually loses on Sunday? Is there a chance that he takes that welcome back burial, if you will, and loses on Sunday to John Cena at Extreme Rules? Because at this point, it doesn't seem, regardless of what John Cena said tonight, which his promo was painful, by the way, but it doesn't seem like there is a chance. It doesn't seem that there is a logical reason for Brock Lesnar to lose an Extreme Rules fight with John Cena. He's an Ultimate Fighting champion. How could he lose a fight to John Cena?
Damian, they have already been laying the groundwork. It started tonight when John Cena fought Lord Tensai and got beat up, and got the mist in the eyes. They're already taking chinks out of Cena's armor to show he's human. Next week, someone else is going to beat the crap out of him. And on the Monday before the pay-per-view, once again, he will get beat up one more time. So when he does get into the ring with Brock Lesnar, he will be a battered and bruised John Cena. And then that's when it will be easy picking for Brock Lesnar to put Cena on the shelf.
That is logical, and we've seen it before, and it makes all the sense in the world. But at this point, let's look at John Cena. He lost to The Rock. He got his tail kicked last week by Brock Lesnar. He got beat tonight by Tensai. Let's say he gets beat again next week. I don't know if the fans in general will view that the way you just said it. Even if that's the case, I think they'll view it as John Cena, those chinks in the armor you talked about. I think he becomes a bit of a joke, a running gag, if you will, to a lot of fans out there. Now, arguably, he had no chance against The Rock in Miami. Arguably, he's got no chance against Brock Lesnar in Chicago. So I guess I see it from that point where it's like not shocking that John Cena doesn't win those matchups. But at the same time, I don't understand, A, why this had to happen so fast, and B, I don't see how Brock can lose this matchup. I just don't.
Well, he's not going to lose the matchup. He's not. Brock Lesnar is going to win. He's going to beat John Cena.
We'll see what happens Sunday night. We'll see what happens Sunday night, or next Sunday night, rather, or 2 Sundays. I don't know. My days are all mixed up. In Chicago at Extreme Rules. You know, my days are all mixed up because I'm only looking forward to this Wednesday when it's time for the 2012 Fantasy Draft. Do you know that the most watched episode of Primetime last year, David Hero, was the 2011 Fantasy Draft?
Oh,
because
absolutely.
People were so shocked.
It was
it was almost like it was watched as much as the Zapruder film because people were looking for that moment where you slipped the fake card in there and picked that card with the cut corner because you obviously cheated to win. You obviously cheated to win.
I understand you have purchased some new software for this draft.
Yeah, the data center's been working on some new numbers and some new spreadsheets.
So
and some new
this is where the human error is taken out of everything, is what you're telling me.
Well, I mean, there was a thing in the first place, and I don't make mistakes. So, anyways, a couple of matchups happened on Raw tonight, in addition to the CM Punk Mark Henry matchup. Santino Marella getting a win over David Otunga. Matthew, I was a little surprised by this one.
Yeah, I looked at it mostly as giving the fans in England, what they wanted. I'm not too concerned about it. It does seem to delegitimize to a certain extent anybody that Santino goes over, but at the end of the day, I think the people out there want to see Santino and see a Santino win. So that's pretty much how I saw it.
David Hero, is there a star rising on Santino right now? You've been big on David Otunga.
I don't see it. I mean, honestly, I would draft Otunga before I would draft Santino Marella. I think I'm sorry?
Are you going to draft David Otunga?
Well, you know what? I might. I mean, I'm not going to take Santino. I just don't see any long-term investment in him. I can't see him getting past an Extreme Rules title match.
Yeah. Another matchup was, was this even a match? I'm confused as to what happened. I don't think the match ever started between Kane and Zack Ryder, and it seemed like that match only happened to A, show Kane's dominance, and B, give Kane an opportunity to talk about what he did last Tuesday on SmackDown, and progress the story between he and Randy Orton, who did not make an appearance on the show tonight.
I cannot be held responsible for Zack Ryder anymore. You know what? It's a brand new draft. The teams have been reset. What happens now to Zack Ryder is his own fault. Wow, this guy cannot catch a break. He finally gets a guy back in the ring who annihilated him. And he doesn't even get a punch or a kick in. No offense whatsoever.
Nothing at all. And CM Punk's tweeting out pictures of him sleeping on a bus.
Yeah, the guy gets buried on Twitter and on TV.
All thanks to the Mighty Mouse Club.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, pal.
Speaking of which, we saw something similar happen with the tag team matchup between Primo and Epico and the pairing of Big Show and the Great Khali. Matthew, your thoughts on this unique situation between during that matchup where we eventually saw Show and Khali get the pin and the win?
I was not very impressed at all. Didn't the last time we see Khali and Big Show team, didn't Big Show punch Khali in the face or something? It's very convenient how that clip was not aired, but it seems like it's been a long time since I've seen those tag belts on TV. I'd actually kind of slipped my mind for a little while that we actually had tag team champions, but yeah, Khali and Big Show going over like that. Not a big fan of that move.
You know what that reminds me of, and we haven't talked about this, I don't think, but back when we were growing up, the three of us, and David, I know we're going back to the Pat Patterson days of the first Intercontinental Champion. You always knew who the champions were. You knew who the TV champion was in NWA. You knew who the United States champion was. You knew who the six-man tag champions were. You knew who the United States tag champions were. You knew who the world champion was. You knew who the North American champion was. You never had to think about it. Nowadays, you have to sit back and think, who is the U.S. champion? Who is the Intercontinental champion? Who are the tag champions? What does that say about the current state of wrestling? When those titles have been made, as you've called them, David Hero, props. They don't mean anything anymore. And they used to mean so much way back when. And people say that now there are too many titles, or there were too many titles, or there still are with the WWE and world titles. But there were many more titles back in the 80s than there are now.
I mean, and you honestly think that the British Bulldogs or the Hart Foundation or Demolition or the Road Warriors, even Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov would have gone out there and gotten their butts kicked by Big Show and Khali?
Not at all.
There's no way.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
They just bury the tag team champions week after week, and if they're not on TV, that's probably better off for them.
On TV tonight was the endorsed Brodus Clay. He took on the endorsed Dolph Ziggler, another matchup which saw shenanigans. Matthew, your thoughts?
It seemed to happen. The whole fiasco seemed to happen rather quick. I don't know. I was hoping to get a little more length out of the whole thing.
Well, either Dolph Ziggler or Brodus Clay, and I think it's more likely to be Brodus Clay since he's starring in one of the upcoming WWE films. It's going to be getting one heck of a push come soon. And David, I think you mentioned recently that Ziggler doesn't need Vicky Guerrero anymore, and I think that became somewhat evident tonight. It seemed like she's more, not even with what happened, but it seems like she is actually a cloud over his perfection.
Well, I don't know if I'd go that far. I just think that Dolph Ziggler doesn't need anybody. I mean, I just think he's that good. He's that talented. He's got to be careful because, eventually he's going to fall in that spot where, well, it's just Dolph Ziggler. He's never going to win. Mm-hmm. And you don't want him to get pigeonholed as to being just a mid-card guy that never gets over. Because that's where he's at. I mean, I can't think of the last time Dolph Ziggler has won a meaningful match.
Yeah. I think leading into the Royal Rumble, and that's about it. Final matchup we're going to talk about that happened on Raw tonight before we take your phone calls. Daniel Bryan versus Kofi Kingston. And it's no longer the LaBelle lock. And, David, what did he say about LaBelle?
He was no good. Who did he ever beat?
Heard that many a time before. The Yes Lock is what it's called. And he, of course, gets the win over Kofi Kingston. WWE fully embracing Yes. Talked about that recently on one of our television broadcasts. But they are fully embracing Yes. And Sheamus comes out to make the save as Daniel Bryan tries to get a little more of Kofi Kingston. Clearly we're going to, probably on this Friday SmackDown, have a match announced between those two, Bryan and Sheamus, a rematch, if you will, at Extreme Rules, if it hasn't been announced already. But Daniel Bryan, definitely embraced by the London crowd. This was not a fluke in Atlanta. It's something that has continued, and now the embracing by WWE, renaming the move the Yes Lock. David, your thoughts?
I'm looking past Kofi Kingston right now. I am just thinking this is not going to end well for Sheamus. Because as popular as he was going into WrestleMania, he's stuck. He's like in purgatory right now because
Yeah.
you don't know what's going to happen with him because he's going up against a guy who is now more popular than he is.
Right.
It's just so weird. I don't know. I mean, the yes lock is fantastic. I can't believe that they're letting him get away with all the yes chants. Obviously, they must be selling a whole ton of T-shirts and whatnot. But, yeah, this is just really, really odd. It's to the point where they've almost bitten off more than what they can chew, and they've gotten a lot more than what they could bargain for.
That was tonight's edition of WWE RAW, but we've got thoughts and comments from the rest of the Pro Wrestling Report broadcast team. And let's start with the man they call Meathead. Meathead, your thoughts on RAW tonight overall?
You know, as I was watching Daniel Bryan, kind of taking off what Dave just said, I was thinking yes as well. Yes, Daniel Bryan doesn't seem like a true heel to me anymore. That's what I was thinking. As I was getting my dancing shoes on. I was getting my dancing shoes on to get ready to dance to the Funkasaurus. But, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
All right, and let's move on to the social media diva, the lovely Linda Kay. Linda, your thoughts on Raw tonight?
Well, I thought there was a better build with the matches to happen at Extreme Rules. And, David, like you said earlier, there are key matches coming up that will shape the direction that WWE is going this year. I mean, with Punk and Jericho, at this moment, I feel it can go either way. But if Punk does lose that Chicago street fight, we could indeed see some writing outside the Allstate Arena. And with Cena and Lesnar, I agree with what you said, Damien. It makes no sense for Brock Lesnar to lose this match. I mean, why invest into this huge return if the self-proclaimed ass kicker will lose to babyface John Cena? So, I don't know.
All right, thank you, Linda Kay, and thank you, Meathead, as well. We'll get to more thoughts from David and Matthew later on here in the broadcast, but we are going to take a timeout. And when we come back, we're going to be taking your phone calls. Again, the number 877-317-9772. We got tons of people on hold right now. We're going to get to as many calls as we can. People from all over the country calling into the Pro Wrestling Report Monday Night Meltdown. Want to remind you, follow us right here on Blog Talk Radio so that you never miss an episode. We do 2 radio broadcasts each and every week, sometimes 3. That being Monday Night Meltdown right here Mondays, and then Thursdays, Sudden Impact Radio with Meathead and Dwayne. And after every pay-per-view, it's the post-show. By the way, you can head on over to PWRshow.com right now and check out the post-show for TNA Lockdown, which I thought was a solid pay-per-view last night from TNA Impact World Wrestling, and one that saw Bobby Roode retain the TNA World Championship. And, again, a solid show, I thought, from pretty much top to bottom, including Garrett Bischoff pinning Eric Bischoff. But you can find out all of our thoughts on that pay-per-view right now at our website, PWRshow.com, where you can also check out this past Saturday's edition of the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime. In case you hadn't heard, Pro Wrestling Report Primetime now airing Wednesdays and Saturday nights. Wednesday and Saturday nights at PWRshow.com. And on Saturdays at On My 24 Milwaukee, all over southeastern Wisconsin. So let's get to a timeout. When we come back, we're going to be entering the phone zone, talking to our great listeners all over the world. This is the Pro Wrestling Report Monday Meltdown.
Monday Night Meltdown continues after this, live on Blog Talk Radio. They know their way around the wrestling ring, but certainly not a whole hell of a lot about being in it. This is the Pro Wrestling Report Radio. There's only one place to get the latest from pro wrestling, including the only place to get 100% verified wrestling news. PWRshow.com. PWRshow.com, where you'll never find pop-ups or misleading headlines. Watch or listen to all of our latest TV and radio broadcasts on demand, and get caught up on wrestling news between episodes. PWRshow.com is the cleanest, friendliest, and most fan-friendly source for wrestling news on the web. You're listening to Monday Night Meltdown live from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and broadcasting worldwide on Blog Talk Radio. Don't forget to follow PWR right here on Blog Talk Radio right now. Be reminded of upcoming episodes and never miss Blog Talk Radio's most popular sports show. Follow PWR now. The Monday Night Meltdown phone zone is now open. Give us a call live at 1-877-317-9772. And be sure to press 1 to get in where you fit in and be part of tonight's live show. We'll call on you by your area code, and when you hear it, tell us your name and where you're calling from. Then proceed with your question or comment.
Yeah, it's all right. There are no worries. Nah, he's got no chance in the draft. No, I've got the staff ready. Oh, sorry. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report. Monday Meltdown here on Blog Talk Radio. We're live Monday night, April 16, 2012. Don't forget, taxes are due tomorrow, so be sure to get those into the mailboxes and pay your share of taxes that are available to you. Anyways, Davey Nelson along with David Hero and Matthew Thomas. We are live, as I said, and it's time to take your phone calls. David, I'm excited. You know what? And Matthew, I'd love to hear your thoughts. You know, we recently discovered that I am the superior wrestling mind in this program, and that I know some at least a year in advance who the better talents are and who makes up the overall best roster of a wrestling company by winning and defeating and dominating David Hero in the draft. And come this Wednesday, we'll have our 2012 version of the draft. And, you know, Matthew, how did it strike you when you found out I defeated David Hero, and not only defeated him, but defeated him with the help of the one-man rock band Heath Slater?
It goes to show you how things can, come down to the wire like that, and the fact that it was none other than Heath Slater that kind of put you over the edge there. I mean, it goes to show how every little bit counts.
Damian Nelson's motto should now be, it's better to be lucky than good.
How was I lucky?
Because we both know that Heath Slater never, ever, ever should have popped up at WrestleMania. We know that. And you know it. And he did. And that's why I lost, because of Heath Slater.
A good team has more than one star player. Everyone contributes equally.
Bro, you had none. You had no star players in your team.
Aside from CM Punk, who garnered me 475 points, which was the highest point earner of the entire draft.
Was originally drafted by me.
He was not. You're a liar. You know he wasn't. It's on tape. Let's watch episode of Primetime in 2011. Let's go to the phones.
Okay.
Let's go to the phones, and let's start with David out in Michigan. David in Michigan, you're live here on the Pro Wrestling Report, Monday Meltdown.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
David, I'm tremendous. I'm on cloud 99.
Hey, can I just say real quick that, Damian Nelson and David Hero, you guys are, great TV. I've watched the draft from last year probably 5 or 6 times, and you guys are just hilarious.
Well, thank you. And you saw how I got over. For a week later, my name was Hanukkah.
Was what? Hanukkah?
I don't celebrate that. David, go ahead. Thank you for your comments. Go ahead with your question.
I'm really loving this Daniel Bryan craze that seems to be taking on. I feel bad for Sheamus, though, because it seems like he's just getting booed and, so much more than, you guys already talked about this, but Sheamus is getting the raw end of the deal, really, having to beat Daniel Bryan in 18 seconds. It's almost destroying his career at the moment right now.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point, and thank you very much for that call, David. And Hero, as you mentioned, Sheamus is sort of in a lull right now. Did he take on more heat than anyone ever thought he would by being the victor at WrestleMania? Meaning, was there as much of a positive effect that there was on Daniel Bryan? Was there a negative effect on Sheamus?
You know what? I think so. I think that they thought the fans were going to love the fact that Sheamus goes out there and just squashes the guy that's been lucky for the last several months, retaining the title, not winning or not losing, just doing that. And they had no idea how over DVD actually was. So it's backfired on them, and you can tell even when Sheamus runs out into the ring, he looks uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. He's not too sure what kind of reaction he's going to get. I mean, he's been booed and he's been cheered right now.
I want to welcome everybody joining us in the Blog Talk Radio chat room here. As you know, every time we're live here on Blog Talk Radio, you can join the conversation and join the conversation with all of our other listeners, or at least most of them, in the chat room right here on Blog Talk Radio. A couple of users in there right now: Tony Capolaralo, Infinity One Productions, Ray Savage, Awesome Possum, Bahama Boy 242. And we welcome everybody who is joining us in the chat room here on Blog Talk Radio. But let's stay on the phones and go to our next caller. Comes to us from a city I've been hearing more about than I want to lately. Jay from Detroit, Michigan. Jay, how are you?
Hey, good day, gentlemen.
Hey, Jay.
Yes, I had a comment and a question. My first comment is about the tag team division. It's a shame how they did the tag team champions. You know, I wish they would let the tag team build up like I was watching Survivor Series 88, and I could watch that match like 5 times over, man. The tag teams were so good, and the match from top to bottom was classic. And my question was, do you feel that John Cena hurt himself by saying he was afraid of Brock Lesnar? Because I feel that he shouldn't have said that. I don't like Cena, but I feel he shouldn't have said that. If you're going to fight a person, do not let them know you're afraid. And I think Brock's going to chew him up for that.
Thank you very much for that call, Jay, out in Detroit. And, you know, maybe it's psychological positioning by John Cena. As I said, that promo got so bad tonight, I couldn't even listen to the rest of it, so I didn't realize he said that he was scared of Brock Lesnar. When John Cena comes out there and just starts talking about how great his opponent is and how he respects his opponent and how he's pandering to the fans, blah, 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 to me, that is just so 2009. I'm just done with it. It's just, I can't even listen to it anymore. So, having not listened to it, Matthew, how would you respond to Jay's question about whether or not John Cena should have said that he was scared of Brock Lesnar?
I'm glad he mentioned it. I actually went back and rewound it to make sure that is what I heard. I was surprised, and tonight, too, it really did strike me. I've never been a big Cena fan as far as anything he does. As far as his in-ring work, I will give him the benefit of the doubt. In the past, I have enjoyed some Cena promos, but like you said, Damon, it's the same old stuff, and he's trying for the big motivational promo about, you know, he's a man, so he's going to admit to being scared and yada, yada, yada. But, man, it really fell flat for me tonight.
David Hero,
Damien,
who is the real John Cena?
Well, hold on. First of all, Damien,
yes.
Going back to Cena saying he's afraid of Brock Lesnar makes perfect sense. Remember Rocky 3 when Rocky fights Clubber Lang and Clubber Lang just beats the hell out of Rocky, and Rocky admits he was scared, then he has to find his courage again? I can see that happening. I can see, you know, Brock Lesnar beating the holy hell out of John Cena at Extreme Rules. Cena admits he was afraid. He took Brock Lesnar's best. He's not dead. And then he trains and rededicates and do the whole Rocky thing. I mean, they've already done it once with Santino, so why not do it now again with John Cena? Listen, everything they're saying is laying the groundwork. It's right in front of us. How many times have I said it? It's always right in front of us. John Cena is going to lose to Brock Lesnar because he was intimidated, because he was afraid of this monster killer. And then when he finally, you know, gets the big rematch, let's face it, there's always more money in the rematch than in the first match. Mm-hmm. That's what's going to happen, and that's the route they're going to go.
Let's go to our next caller. Our next caller comes to us from New Jersey. Gabriel, you're live here on the Pro Wrestling Report, Monday Meltdown.
Hi, gentlemen. David Hero's Rocky comeback scenario was probably more boring to me than Cena's promo. I mean, I personally would not want to see that.
Well, then you'd be bored for the next 4 or 5 months watching Raw.
I'll be bored anyway, if anything, dealing with Cena. But for anybody that thought that WWE was bringing back Lesnar would change the landscape, I really hope you enjoyed the Three Stooges and Sherlock Truth killing the ratings the last 2 weeks. My second point, I wanted to extend my appreciation for your primetime special, which was discussing the failure to make new stars in this era. For any listeners, I mean, please definitely check that out. That was a great listen. I thought your idea to make developmental farms into more of a territory where they, wrestlers get to meet and have experience with different kinds of wrestlers throughout the country, that's brilliant, because I believe you brought up the point that, if you're wrestling the same four guys every month for like a year, like what do you learn? Also, I think during that segment, Damien, you brought up the difference between like now and our era. We have instant satisfaction versus the slow build. And that goes to your point about the whole, rushing the whole Lesnar Cena thing. I do think that, I think that's more the WWE thing, because people, like real fans, I believe, enjoy a slow build, which kind of leads me to my next point about, who they're giving pushes to. They should focus more on people who have star power, not people like Jack Swagger, or Wade Boring.
Well, thank you so much. And that special that you're referencing, Gabriel, was, I think, last Wednesday's PWR Primetime, available on our website, pwrshow.com. The original point that Gabriel made is about, John Cena and whether or not this is going to go in that direction. I think we'll all sit back and wait and see what happens with that going forward. But, there is, whether or not there is a change, if you will, in professional wrestling. Now, I went on record and said I feel that the pro wrestling business is back. It's not a switch that gets pulled. It's something that happens over the course of 6 to 8 months, and all of a sudden you're deep and you're in it. The Attitude Era didn't start with a switch. I think it started with a moment, which was the Montreal Screwjob, if you will, but it doesn't start with a switch. And I think that moment this time was The Rock versus Cena, followed by Lesnar coming back. But I think that switch, or that actual realization of the fact that pro wrestling is back, if we stay on the current course, won't come until probably around the Survivor Series or so. So I do think that there is an upswing in the wrestling business. Ratings matter so much less now than they did 10 years ago. However, WWE is still one of the strongest broadcasts on Monday nights on all of television, including all the other broadcast networks. And let's not lose sight of the fact of what WWE announced today. WrestleMania 28 got the most buys, had the largest viewing audience of any WrestleMania in history, surpassing their previous record, did the largest single-day gross in company history of nearly $70 million of money brought in from those pay-per-view buys and preliminary reports. That is huge, and that has to translate into the next several months in WWE, and it became clear to me that they realized that when they brought Brock Lesnar back in, not at WrestleMania, but at Raw the night after, to get those curiosity viewers. So we'll see what happens over the course of the next several months in the company. Let's go to our next caller. Yes, sir.
Damien, if John Cena was not wrestling Brock Lesnar, who would he be working right now? What program would he be in?
Well, he could be losing to Cody Rhodes or Dolph Ziggler or any of the other.
Because Cody is chasing Big Show right now. So where would John Cena be if there was no Brock Lesnar this month?
But your theory about John Cena taking time off, he could have easily done that after WrestleMania. Let's not forget how bizarre it was.
They need to run the injury angle.
But he could have, let's not forget how bizarre it was the night after Mania when the question was, where was John Cena? All of a sudden he shows up. They never mentioned that he was missing all day, and Brock Lesnar comes back. I think that they could have easily used his despondent mood from losing to The Rock in the match he had to win as reason for him to be gone for a little while. Maybe he's finding himself.
Babyface does not leave on his own. Okay?
Shawn Michaels did. He went to find a smile.
That was completely different, and look how that backfired on him. Right?
Yep.
Okay, you need a heel to take the babyface off TV, and that's what they did. That's what they're going to do.
Let's go to our next phone caller who comes to us from Jackson, Mississippi. Kevin, you're live. You're on the Pro Wrestling Report.
Now, it's amazing that y'all was talking about fan development, and I got cut off a couple of weeks ago. How ironic. I should go heel, but I'm going to save it. I was calling. I should, but I'm not. I was talking about that.
Let's make one thing crystal clear, Kevin. We don't ever hang up on anybody unless they get a warning first and don't continue. So something had to happen either within the system or on your phone line. We apologize for that, but we don't hang up on callers. This is the fan show.
I would have.
Invite everybody to call in, which is why you don't work the board, David.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Okay, I thought you hung up on me. My point is, I'm glad that everything is turning around for Daniel Bryan, because I was very postal about the fact that he won the Money in the Bank. They made him look bad, but now it's firing back because, hey, everybody knows Sheamus was Triple H's workout buddy. And, hey, it's firing back. And my other point I was going to make was regarding Garrett Bischoff. What's your opinion about promoters and these executives who be force-feeding their son down our throats like Bill Watts did with Eric Watts? I mean, Garrett Bischoff can't wrestle. And those are my 2 points for this evening.
Well, you know, hold on. Wait, don't hang up yet. So you don't think Sheamus has deserved his spot? He's earned his own spot?
No, I don't.
Really?
No, I don't.
Okay. Why? What hasn't he done for you?
What has he done for me?
What hasn't he done?
Okay, I'll give you a perfect example. When Mark Henry won the world title, think about it. Every time when Sheamus was heel, he beat up Mark Henry. So when Mark Henry came, supposed to be dominant, think about it. They protected Sheamus away from Mark Henry. He was never able to get his beat down back on Sheamus.
No, he did. He beat Sheamus on a pay-per-view clean.
Okay, what pay-per-view was that? Because for some reason, I guess I can't think straight because I'm at work.
Kevin, think about it a little bit. Maybe give us a call again next week. But I think it is a valid point that is made, and one that I think needs to be spoken to. We've talked about the Triple H factor with his wife, Stephanie. He mentioned Eric Watts, Bill Watts, Eric Bischoff, Garrett Bischoff. Just you go down the road. Look, in any business, the unfortunate reality is it's not who you are or what you can do, it's who you know. And while you may not agree with it, it happens in whatever. Kevin, you said you're at work. I'm sure it's happened in your company. Maybe you just don't know it, but it happens. And I don't fault any of these people for doing favors for people they find value in because, well, they can. So
absolutely. Whether
we like it or not, I mean, it just is what it is. I think Sheamus has turned out to be great. I respect what Garrett Bischoff did last night at Lockdown on pay-per-view. He admitted all the stuff you just said, Kevin, right before the matchup. So I think we need to worry less about that because that's part of Triple H's bad reputation. Granted, he's made out like a godfather in this whole thing. I mean, he's going to be the man running the company once Vince McMahon steps to the side, whenever that might be. But be that as it may, I'm sure him and Stephanie love each other. I'm sure that they wanted to build a family together.
Well,
I can't imagine he
did
this. Exactly. I can't imagine he did this, oh, yeah, I'm going to marry the daughter so I can get him at the company. Yeah, no, not quite. But anyways, that's a whole other show for a whole other time because we've got one final caller to take, and we're going to take a caller from Bloomington, Illinois. Arthur from Bloomington, Illinois, you're live here on the Pro Wrestling Report.
What's up, guys?
Hey, Arthur.
Hey, Arthur.
David, I want to tell you about that Rocky Retro. Awesome,
yes.
Man. I like it.
You like that?
Yes. So that guy from New Jersey, I don't know what he's talking about. Now my opinion, Daniel Bryan and this whole yes, yes, yes chant is starting to really irritate me because that's not the babyface Daniel Bryan that I like. I like the first Daniel Bryan babyface I liked when he stood up to Michael Cole's ignorant self. Now, as far as Cena goes, if Cena don't do something quick, then Damian, you are so right. He is going to lose to Brock Lesnar, and I'm already seeing it right now because Lesnar is going to bloody Cena from pillar to post at Extreme Rules in 2 weeks.
You know, I think, and thanks for that call, Arthur. And you know, for the casual fan or the fan who might still be tuning in that got back into WWE after WrestleMania with The Rock. The casual fan who may not have been watching for a while has no reason to want to see anything else but Brock Lesnar, the beast, the man, the dominator in wrestling, destroy John Cena. So, thank you for that call, Arthur, from out in Bloomington, Illinois. Bloomington, normal. I haven't been down in those parts in a while. But anyways.
Were we in Bloomington for a TNA house show one time, Damien?
We did go to Bloomington for a TNA house show once. Yes, a TNA house show, David. We went to Bloomington, Illinois for a TNA house show. As Lewis Beck would say, I'll repeat that. We went to Bloomington, Illinois for a TNA house show. You know what? It's a great night, though. That was the first night I met Rob Terry. Good guy.
Was it?
Rob? Yeah.
And then we had steak and crab legs with Big Sexy, right?
Big Sexy, AJ Styles, James Storm. Yeah. Oh, who else was there? Everybody was there. It was
that asshole, Ken Anderson. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Why would you call him such names right here on a nationally broadcast program? You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
He's one of my super friends.
You're going to be ashamed of the people you picked this Wednesday on the PWR draft. And that is going to be 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, PWRshow.com.
I can promise you one thing. I will not pick your boy Cody Rhodes. I'll let you keep him.
I never said it was Cody Rhodes. See, that's the problem.
Please.
You think you got me figured out. As Roddy Piper said, just when you think you got the answers, I change the questions. You don't know what I'm going to do. You have no idea. I know I was dominant.
This is the same guy that took Heath Slater number 2.
Why are you so bitter about this Heath Slater thing? You had your chance to confront Heath Slater in Miami. Well, you just don't know what you're doing. It's just that simple.
No. Yeah, exactly.
Enough about that. The draft Wednesday at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. PWRshow.com is where you can see it. And follow at PWR Draft on Twitter for all the shenanigans and whatnot that happened after or during the draft as well. And I've been in very close communications with that young Mike Wicket boy, and he will be moderating the draft, and we have signed an agreement that he must follow and say certain things at certain times in certain ways that are favorable to certain people. That as it may. Matthew, overall tonight, WWE Raw, would you give it a passing or a failing grade?
I'm going to pass it. They went somewhere different. Like I said, I was not expecting Cena, Lord Tensai as the main event, 3 weeks into him debuting. So for the sake of going somewhere different with that, it's a pass for me.
And David Hero, your final thought, pass or fail WWE Raw, which was a tape show, by the way, from London, England.
I don't think it was a great show, but it definitely passed. They're definitely establishing the groundwork for Brock and Cena. That's the big money match for the pay-per-view. That's for the ones that's going to sell most of the pay-per-view buys will be Brock versus Cena.
All right, well, that is tonight's edition of Monday Night Meltdown. I want to apologize to Kevin from Mississippi, Jesse from Houston, Conrad from Sheboygan, Ken from North Carolina. We weren't able to get to your calls tonight. Give us a try next week or even Thursday on Sudden Impact Radio. By the way, speaking of Impact, let's talk real here. Should be a good show this Thursday. Some type of major announcement coming from the general manager, Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff, discommunicated, gone from TNA Wrestling, at least on an on-air role. And I think they're coming off the heels of a very strong pay-per-view last night in Lockdown. So be sure to tune in to Sudden Impact Radio Thursday night, right here on Blog Talk Radio, and then in the archives at PWRshow.com. Without any more hoopla, this is the Pro Wrestling Report Monday Meltdown. For the man they call Meathead, for Linda Kay, Matthew Thomas, and David Hero, this is Damian Nelson saying so long, and we look forward to seeing you Wednesday night, 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time on the 2012 Pro Wrestling Report Draft. So long, everyone.
This is the Pro Wrestling Report. Informative, entertaining, real.